Hello everyone and welcome to my Dragonhold build video for the CP BiS patch. So this patch comes in with some actually great changes considering in what terrible state the game has been in the past few months. I mean, Scalebreaker patch was a patch where everybody thought the patch would be great because they nerfed so many things that people crashed on and nerfed the tankiness and actually brought diversity to stamina builds finally after like, what, 3 years? But the patch ended up being a disaster due to the too high damage over time effects and cast times, which Zos actually took notice, and finally we are getting a patch that was supposed to come 2 months ago. Actually, we are actually getting a patch that's where burst is relevant again. That was supposed to happen 2 months ago, but at least they learned from their mistakes. Hopefully they will learn from their mistakes about cast times too soon. So this patch we received some great changes to Sniker. Well, not directly Sniker, but we received a great set that will help out Stamblades a lot, especially because they lost so much damage in Elsewhere patch. And I changed my build a little bit. I had to change how I think about making my builds and with what mentality I make my builds, because simply building full sustain and over sustaining your enemy on a Stamblade isn't a viable choice anymore. You really have to spec into damage to be able to simply do damage on Stamblade, because both of your abilities are so delayed to the point where you can't just have such a huge damage output just by simply comboing those skills well together, one after the another. You have to focus on one of your skills doing the deciding blow to the enemy that will make them go on defense. Therefore, instead of going for a lot of sustain and simply trying to out-sustain your opponent, you really have to push into damage to be able to burst them down in time, because all of your skills are so delayed. So let's look at what I'm gonna wear in next patch. And right away what you can see is the new set, New Moon Acolyte. This is my favorite set I have ever seen in the game, and not only because it has all of those juicy stats like 480 weapon damage and physical penetration on 4-piece and another weapon damage 3-piece and weapon crit on 2-piece. It's just such a huge damage set that Stamblades cannot run around without next patch anymore. It's a very needed damage boost for them. And I love it not only because it's such a juicy set, but I love it also because I think that this set has been introduced after my concept being brought up in ZeniMax Studios. Because what I've done is make this concept for flanking strategists like a few months ago. That's very old. And it looked kind of similar to what the set is supposed to do, like the 4-piece penetration, the 3-piece weapon damage, and a huge weapon damage boost on 5-piece. That looks very similar, and I'm quite sure that this set has been made for Stamblades because it just fits so well with the rollerblade builds. It's insane. So this is quite easily the best set you can wear in next patch on a Stamblade. Not so much on other classes, but on a Stamblade it's great. Then on my body, it's Spriggan. Again, because of the damage boost it gets, you basically wear two of some of the highest damage sets in the game, and that's what Stamblade is supposed to be about: building full damage, just absolutely nuking the fuck out of your opponents, and that's great. Master's Bow on back bar, again infused weapon damage enchantment, just full damage, and Bloodspawn on your head and shoulders to give you that necessary tankiness, ulti-gen, and a little bit of sustain. I tried playing around with Ground Wolf, the setup got introduced with Scalebreaker, That's also a very great set. Not so much for open world, more for duels and battlegrounds, because in open world, when you're gonna start kiting and you have to like create distance between you on your own versus the 12 people that are chasing you, you're not gonna have a dot up constantly to like have this Grundwolf proc all the time. And I think on a character that doesn't rely on shields and has such a low health pool, nowadays like 24-25k HP is kind of a low HP pool. I think that the Bloodspawn tankiness is necessary for us. But it's not a bad set. You can wear it and be successful in it. I have worn it for like the past few weeks in Battlegrounds and I have been very successful with it. I felt the sustain increase, it was great. And on the set you can wear is Velidrev. It's kind of a joke set at this point. It's not very reliable. I'd say it's a pretty terrible set. You can wear it and get some lucky kills with it, and the burst is great, but it's kind of a joke set at this point. It's not very good. It's more like a fun set. That's about it. So let's go over my skills, and that's one of the more interesting changes I've done to my build as well. And if you look at my front bar, I have my Relentless Focus, Surprise Attack, Rally, all the standard setup, Camo Hunter, Killer's Blade, and In-Cap Strike. Now you're gonna see that I'm missing any kind of CC or Fear, and that's because I think that a Fear on a Stamblade is kind of useless at this point. And let me explain why. So you have your In-Cap, which is already delayed by 400 milliseconds. And you have your Relentless Focus, which is also delayed by 400 milliseconds. And their skill just doesn't hit fast enough. You fear your opponent, and then you can't cast any of your key burst abilities. And that's why fear is kind of useless. You just fear your enemy, and then the only thing that has a guaranteed hit is your Surprise Attack. Well, I mean, like, why bother fearing your enemy if you can just, like, do a Surprise Attack instead and have more pressure, right? Yeah. And besides that, you already have 2 stuns built into your kit. First of all is the Surprise Attack stun from Cloak, which is not the best thing to play around, but it's quite strong, especially in OCP where you don't have a stun without a fear. And the strongest stun you can ever have in this game currently, off balance, on a stamina character. Because this increases your heavy attack damage by a ton, making your heavy attack into in-cap combos hit a lot harder, gives you sustain back, gives you resources back, which is a great way of sustaining as well. It's a huge sustain boost. And it also has a built-in stun, so you basically stun them on something that's off GCD, off global cooldown. That means you don't waste a cooldown on a stun, you actually do damage while stunning, and at the same time you have more time after stunning your opponent to hit that in-cap. You actually have more chance to hit your in-cap after a off-balance heavy attack than you do after fearing them. Because it's an off GCD stun, you don't waste the GCD for it, it's not delayed. Like, you can do an in-cap right after you stun them. And that's the great thing. That's the best stun you can possibly have in this game currently. So the only time fear would be still good is when you have a free spot, obviously, or in open world where you, for example, you duo with somebody to like shake. For example, your duo partner is in trouble and he needs your help, so you just go into the crowd of people that chase him and fear them off. Or on group play, I guess. But for solo situations, I have been more successful without a fear. Simple as. Because everybody's gonna just break free and dodge roll anyway. The stun makes no sense. Yeah. So instead I put on Camouflage Hunter, and again, this is going by my mentality. The more damage you have, the more successful you're gonna be on your Stamblade currently. And the minor Berserk, the major Savagery, and a 3% weapon damage is just huge. it's a much bigger boost in no CP than it is in CP, obviously, because minor berserk all damage done percentage values get halved in CP because of how CP work. But 8% more damage and major savagery in no CP is absolutely huge. You can feel the difference. You're bursty as fuck with that, and it's great. Now, my number 5 is a flex spot again. I played around a little bit. I don't have a fixed ability of what I think is the best in slot here. I play around with the slot. Sometimes I put on ambush. Sometimes I put on an execute like Killer's Blade. Sometimes I put Reaper's Mark, which is really not the greatest thing. Sometimes I put Leeching Strikes on that bar. And sometimes in BGs though, only in BGs, I put Channeled Acceleration. It's also a great skill. 10% more damage, more crit damage in OCP. Oh my god, sweet. You hit huge incaps. The other day I've hit 11k, 12k incaps on people in OCP, and that's huge. That's basically all of their HP bar at once. Now back to my back bar. Shade was supposed to get nerfed, doesn't get nerfed anymore, thank god. The best skill you can have currently for defense. If you don't play with this skill, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you're gonna learn to play with this skill is literally the best thing you can have everywhere. In solo, in BGs, in EU BGs where the team isn't very synchronized at least, in duels, it's such an irreplaceable skill for Nightblades. Poison injection standard. I'm still wearing Master's Bow, so I have to use this. More for the Master's Bow effect than the actual dot, because the actual dot isn't that great. Resolving Vigor, Shadowy Disguise, Shuffle, and Temporal Guard. Now, the last few patches I've been saying that I would still run Soul Siphon on my back bar, not this patch anymore. The skill has a 500 milliseconds delay on it, and in my eyes that makes the skill kind of useless. This skill was supposed to be like a huge oh shit button where it just heals you up instantly, and you can't really, like, the half a second delay is so huge. It's even bigger than Incap, and Incap feels terrible on a class like this. But 500 milliseconds on a skill that was supposed to be a huge oh shit button for this like fast-paced class is just, it's crippling. It's totally crippling the skill, and therefore, I mean, if you necessarily want to run the skill, I would only suggest using it in duos, maybe. It's not even gonna save your duo partner most of the time, let's be honest. So I'd say the best in slot ult you can have here on your back bar, although it's so unreliable because of the bug, is Temporal Guard, just because of the minor protection. It's gonna save you a lot of the times if it actually works. Now, my champion builds are still the standard. You can just watch them, you can stop the video here and copy them if you want to. They are just the standard, I use them every single patch. Now let's look at my stats with this build. And they are quite insane because the weapon damage on this is absolutely huge. You're gonna notice that my max stamina on this build isn't quite big, it's only 29k, but as long as you can sustain this maximum stamina, it's alright. Weapon damage gives you more damage anyway. So, if I just apply my rally, you can see that I have 4.6k weapon damage. That equals to almost 11k surprise attack tooltip and almost, no, well, 17k incap tooltip. Quite huge. Now if I use my Berserker enchant and Minor Berserk, I am almost on 12k surprise attack and almost on 19k incap. That's just absolutely huge. I don't think my Berserker even crit. One sec. Yeah. 12.5k and a 20k incap tooltip. Fat damage. Right there. You're gonna obliterate people with this build. You have, like, what? 5.2k weapon damage to play around with. That's gonna be even more considering you get 300 weapon damage from Master's Bow, which, by the way, scales with major vitality as well. And sometimes you even get continuous attacks. You're gonna be over 6k weapon damage fully buffed. I think that's insane. Because of the reason that I played those OCP for the majority of my time in the previous few weeks, and I'm gonna probably play it for my majority of my time the next few months. I'm probably gonna make a OCP build video for the next patch as well, and that's not gonna be much different from what I run now. But it's gonna be very detailed about why and what I run as well. So yeah, see you guys.